Mountain Memory, Marsh by Carol Parris Krauss. Fernwood Press, 2025, on Amazon. Mountain Memory, Marsh is a collection grounded in attention, patient, embodied, and unsentimental. Moving between Appalachian uplands and tidewater marshes, Carol Parris Krauss writes poems of place not as destinations, but as lived terrains shaped by labor, inheritance, illness, weather, and loss. These poems do not romanticize landscape or memory. Instead, Krauss treats both as physical processes subject to erosion, pressure, and change. What distinguishes the collection is its refusal of easy resolution. Memory does not console, it instructs. In poems such as Saturday Chores on Greenbrier Road, the bottle-lined windowsill of childhood dazzles with color but conceals what it once held. Floors must be scrubbed on hands and knees while spoken to, addressed as elders. A bed imperfectly repaired becomes a limit to intimacy. Such moments give the book its quiet authority. Krauss trusts objects, and the work done with them, to carry meaning. Family history runs throughout the collection, particularly in poems addressing aging parents, blindness, and grief. These pieces are intimate without being confessional. Loss is registered indirectly, through domestic detail or environmental parallel. In Bull Beach, As My Mother Goes Blind, the slow erosion of Pocosint's shoreline unfolds alongside the diminishing of sight. The poems allow these processes to mirror one another without insisting on metaphor. They simply coexist as they do in lived experience. The natural world in Mountain Memory, Marsh is neither symbolic backdrop nor moral instructor. Animals, ducks, rabbits, dogs, appear as fellow creatures bound by instinct and circumstance. Weather and water operate on long timelines that dwarf individual grief. Marshes walk inland. Storms exhaust themselves and retreat. Houses on stilts wait, inevitably, to fail, as they do in poems such as The Ghost Forest and Ashes to Ashes. Krauss's ecological awareness is observational rather than declarative. She lets the reader feel what it means to live inside these systems. Equally notable is the collection's physical intelligence. Krauss writes with an acute awareness of the body as a site of knowledge. In poems such as The Texture of the Heart, hearts have textures, pregnancy becomes ballast and cargo, and grief moves through muscle and breath. Even when the poems edge toward the mythic, Sharon driving a hearse, saints losing their eyes, the supernatural is folded into the everyday. These moments feel less like fantasy than the mind's way of accommodating vigilance, solitude, and memory. Formally, Krauss favors free verse marked by control rather than compression. Enjambment keeps the poems moving, while the diction remains precise and unadorned. Humor surfaces occasionally, a cousin stealing cookies from a funeral reception, but never fractures the book's tonal integrity. Instead, it reinforces a central truth of the collection. Sorrow and the ordinary are inseparable. Although Mountain Memory, Marsh stands firmly on its own, it participates in a long and ongoing conversation among poets for whom attention is an ethical act and place is inseparable from lived experience. Seen in this broader literary context, Krauss's accuracy of observation and emotional restraint place her in quiet conversation with Elizabeth Bishop, whose work likewise allows landscapes and objects to carry the weight of grief without rhetorical display. As in Bishop's poems, loss in Krauss's work surfaces obliquely, through geography, weather, and the textures of ordinary things. Her attentiveness to animals, seasons, and the non-human world recalls Mary Oliver, though Krauss resists Oliver's tendency towards spiritual consolation. Where Oliver often moves toward affirmation, Krauss remains with uncertainty, allowing erosion, absence, and illness to stand unresolved. In her intimate but disciplined treatments of family, inheritance, and the body, Krauss shares ground with the early work of Sharon Olds. Like Olds, she is unafraid of personal material, yet she avoids confessional excess, relying instead on physical fact and emotional control. Krauss's ethic of place also aligns her with Wendell Berry, particularly in poems centered on labor, repetition, and generational knowledge. Floors are scrubbed, beds repaired, rituals repeated, not as nostalgia, but as acts of care within a changing world. Finally, her understanding of land and body as mutually shaping forces places her work alongside contemporary poets such as Natalie Diaz, though Krauss's register is quieter and more domestic, rooted in Appalachian and tidewater landscapes rather than overt political declaration. Seen this way, Krauss writes not in isolation, but within a community of poets who value precision over proclamation, witness over explanation, and careful seeing as belonging. She is a master of her craft. She earns our admiration.